Right.
Which is something. Okay. So we're on electrical tools and implements. So is there a special way that you inspect these devices? I don't know. You know, the advanced aesthetics has and the same as other devices. Wonder.
This is Tracy from page. This reads as if it's speaking to kind of hair only
Okay.
specific. So it could be more inclusive of the other fields of practice,
Okay.
nails, aesthetics, things like that. So either removing things that say like hair, so that this is found as hair specific, or adding more language about the others, what's that's for other scopes of practice.
So tell me this, but let's say that all this was related to aesthetics. Yeah, like remove all foreign hair. Would these same things happen? Would you like, well, you also listen to that? Like reading machine, you know, microcurrent machines are. Would that fall in here? Does that need to have a different type of rule?
This speech span, like as long as it hasn't been touched with bloodborne pathogens, it would be low level, but if it is bloodborne pathogen, then it would be high level. So it's
And do you soak them? Soak them?
no, you don't soak it. You would spray it or wipe it down.
Yeah, this is Tracy. That's where I was going to say the difference is in B where this says completely saturated. The terms we use is immersion. So if we're not going to immerse them, then it needs to be specific about spraying or wiping them down. Good.
Okay. We have chemical peels here. And I'm pretty sure that this petition is prohibited from performing chemical peels that extend beyond the stratum basal. Is that still correct? Does that need to be along with the epidermis?
This speech span, stratum basal is a part of the epidermis. So I don't know if this needs to be aligned with the natural physiological effect of the skin. But the stratum basal is a part of the epidermis, so
Probably not, if I think about it, because it's called the natural physiological effect part is only connected to the mechanical electrical apparatus, not to product like, okay. Say all of that to get to the answer. Into one to my worker. So aesthetics is the manipulative practice task of my governance. So. This was written with chemical peels in mind, general cleaning in mind, and thoughts together. So it may still fit. You may want to look at what advanced aesthetics does. Remember? Or how number 5 says if providing chemical pills of dermal cleaning, would you want to have maybe another book or this one? Microplating, microcurrent, galvanic current, all those things. A special type of client record for those.
This is Beatrice Mann speaking. I think that like, on number 5, we can add my recommendation, chemical peels and medical, not medical, mechanical devices or apparatuses for dermaplaning, including enzymes as well, because for enzymes is not a lighter form of chemical peels where you are exfoliating the skin.
Would it just be enzymes?
Yeah.
And people would know what that is.
Enzymes,
Only this addition of.
time mass. Time mass.
Oh, mass.
Yeah, so that's a mass that is lighter than a chemical peel, but it does. Stimulation.
Okay.
Is there a way for us to say that it's one in some specific with any product that may, and then what the some actually does? Any level or grade of a chemical, or
Yeah.
feel something like that.
Where does the name of mass fall?
That's a
I'm just wondering about it.
Yeah, that would be an action device.
because we're trying.
Yeah, we're
Very
talking about
confusing.
device.
Facial and then you.
Oh, the most of them.
Would it be easier to say?
Yeah,
Natural or chemical exfoliation.
yeah.
But gen-
Just,
Right.
yeah, the rest are going to fit. From that.
This is Tracy. I think we're suggesting that it say, if providing natural or chemical peels under 5.
For dermaplaning and then devices.
Right.
XYZ. This is also and again, since we're talking about the chemicals on the skin as an esthetician, we also do lash lifts and brow treatments for using chemicals around the eye. So I feel like that probably should be actually documented as well if there was an adverse reaction.
The lash brows now? Lash and brow services.
Yeah, lash and brow.
This is Harold folks. Wouldn't that be under advanced estheticians now? Or are we just doing, this is the bare bones of what estheticians would do on a regular basis? This is part of the part of their practice.
Right.
Okay.
And they can do last year.
Okay.
I mean, the practice purpose of patients and the service on patients, and then we're still in a gray area for, routes, because we've been dealing with devices. And I think it's also, I mean, I get the brow, the mash question, figure it out, maybe 10 times a week. And so it might be. Right, I mean, would it be helpful, I think it's something to consider, adding that practice clarifications. I mean, obviously, pick and choose, but maybe that one's good.
I think we're gonna get on there to clarify that it is. Same product that you're using on the lashes again.
And that would be, that would be under FAQ. Or
Yeah, it's currently under an FAQ.
that we would change.
Maybe we keep the FAQ, but take whatever's in that FAQ and put it in the rule. So this wouldn't be questioned on. We did it for, nursing homes, people being able to go into nursing homes and not be licensed. There's a rule about that, and it wasn't, it's still an FAQ, but we made it. We don't do it very often, but I would say my plan was to print them all off and then kind of assess which ones. Okay, I do that with every time we do rulemaking, that whatever board has them, just to see if there's ones that we think warrant being in the rule. So, I think those warrant.
This is crazy. Is there, I mean, really in this, to make this not crazy long, I mean, do we need to list out everything that they're doing? Or should that esthetician actually be making these documentations no matter what's they're doing?
They should, but. We're already listing chemical peels and germ cleaning.
Yeah, I mean, it just is more specific to chemical pills down in F, so it doesn't, has a whole item here, a whole section for that, so I'm like, maybe in 5, it's just the esthetician must document. And it's all of these things. Because if they do a service and it doesn't have any reaction, their documentation is gonna be much more, much smaller than if they do. If they are having a reaction, we do need to, they need to know all of these things, and it all needs to be documented.
I have to double check, but I believe the previous rule really just didn't contain 1 through 4. And with chemical pills and general cleaning, we added the board added the 5. So that would make sense. And I don't know why they did it that way. Maybe it needs to do it. This might also be, you can work it into this rule, or you want to do another one where you would say an esthetician is performing services threading, and then they're taking that hat off, and now they're performing medical services. I don't know if it belongs here or somewhere else, but I think that's probably one that should look at.
Right. I mean, it states that before, right, that they're working in a dual capacity. So
So to say like to change your name and something like that.
yeah, it has been clear with that.
No, it's fine.
So you're 6. Or.
I think the only thing different in advanced studies is that they have to like change the name tag. They present themselves, but. So do you think it should be all aesthetic services? Number five, so let's put them all, you could do aesthetic services, including an element of two, whatever that is.
Do one. Just trying to keep it a little
Yeah,
simpler, right?
just put it into consideration. Yes. Well, yes, but even some eyes, sort of, yeah, we would consider an eyebrow wax. An eye surface, so that would be in there, yes.
This is Chelsea. Would you want it though for like a basic shelf? Just basic. Like, do you truly want it for every single SB service? Just opting to get a wax.
It's the same level of risk if you're getting a wax eyebrow. Or threaded eyebrow. Or I don't think.
This is Tracy. I mean, I think it goes back to, like, what is the intent of having a client record? Is it so that you're documenting any contraindications, any possible problems, anything like that? And if, no matter what the service, if you're having a concern, I think it should be documented so that you or any other service provider in that location would know how to operate in the future with that guest. I don't know that every single thing needs to be filled out for every single time, but having a place where you're saying, this is a concern, I waxed her and her skin came off, like, that needs to be documented.
Urgent actions.
Right. But to even the basic, I mean, pineapple, you could have a horrible reaction to that,
Or even aromas and just like.
Correct.
So you could do a catch-all one that says, for aesthetic services. But you guys know the complications or contraindications, you need to document it, and then would it be relevant to keep this more detailed list for chemical and natural fuels during that
Devices
devices, right?
and flash and brow services. Yeah. I think when this is Beatrice, when we talk about brow service, it's not necessarily brow waxing unless there was a adverse reaction to the wax. It's more if we bring brow lamination into it, it's more of a chemical on the brows, not the waxing itself.
So, chemical brow services.
I mean, that maybe you can take, I think else out and do chemical services.
Yeah.
But when we're saying chemical services, would it be also hairdressers, when you guys are doing bleaching?
No, because, no, hairdressers not to do this.
Okay,
Yeah.
it specifically says the esthetician, but.
But then would that include tinting?
Yeah,
To be a medical?
You could say lash and brow chemical services. Take a little animation, give them an idea of what those are. Favorite service.
Yeah, I think if you just have it truly as chemical services in general, then that would cover any chemical use.
Oh, and then you list lash and brow, heel. That's good.
Yeah.
But this is here, but that does not include hair color, right? That's okay.
Not for a hairstyle.
That's a hairstylist, but
Yeah.
for tinting the brows,
Got it. Okay.
tinting the lashes.
Got it. Okay.
Would, lash extension is chemical service. You will or no?
Yeah.
And he said,
So we have a catch-all rule, or if there's contraindications, in that arena, then we document for any aesthetic service. And then this one would be more refined to chemical services, with not limited to dermaplaning and then the list of devices. Trying to read, understand what I'm written. Okay, good to move on. To royalties. For that. And to maintain plan records for each. That one and five, then maintain fire documentation, permitting manual, electrical. Do that.
Such one of these. Looking at 17, 15, 55.
You on 0105?
05, 005.
I'm still on the first one, 0105. I think that one's okay, yes. Yes.
Chelsea, I feel like it's pretty inclusive for number 4. By receiving aesthetic services. Okay.
And I checked in the file. Oh, that's there. The only thing is because 0065 has kind of 2 parts. The first part is going to keep all the manuals, the actual instructions for the device, and then the second part is get training and keep that documentation. Maybe you will put the subsection. So that is relevant. So that can be like, and then you don't have to worry so much about the manual control. Talk about Bob. Zero one one zero. White line. Having gray electrical wiring or building electrical circuits, inclusive. Mandatory eye goggles, shields, and mask before you on plane for the light never supply. Everything. That's the person. The personal blood line. So Bob, we're talking about that one I just read. The goggles. Are you in the set of rules or is there a difference?
Well, I don't know if it's the same one, but 817, 090, 05.
Okay.
So it has to do with client records and aesthetic services. But it does not. So you have 817-015-0065. Should it not have also 817-015-0055? 8. To make it inclusive,
I don't know what that really means, that means.
to include. So. About chemical tables. And. it talks, it talks about fully comply with required education, chemicals and in the manner intended by manufacturer and of course manufacturer recommendations. And in number four, it discusses those types of things, but applied 5 is not listed in the.
I see what you're saying, but I'm not seeing the education piece in this. I see it as a plant record. I'll just note it and then I will look at it. I think I'm following these. That equals 0.150055.
Yes.
I haven't seen this one.
Yeah.
You talk about it.
Right.
Attaching.
For journal planning.
But the fine.
It's any kind of, chemical service.
You're not talking about number 4, it's a low entity.
Adding 5,
Got it,
6, 5, 7.
got it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Tracy, in printout that I have under the next section, 817-0-0-0-110, number 3, it has, American with Disabilities Actor Fish instead of act.
Just say that. Tracy.
It's new.
That isn't.
I
It takes sense. Aquarium.
agree.
That's funny.
Good catch.
If all people that review these, nobody can actually fish. Just leave it.
It's got a top hat on it.
Yeah.
Every one of them. Okay, now there's options to, have some feedback on, disclosure acts, and give it to me, otherwise we would run that through the rack and then the board. Might be a cost to- Maybe do it all be the same, just cleaning it up.
Records, you're already keeping records. You have me.
Right. And having to be trained isn't really intentional.
You're already purchasing your disinfectant, that's
Right.
fine.
And if you,
The only thing, this is Beatrice and like, this is like, it's, since we are adding more documentation, because I know we've already been documenting, but now as we add more documentation in between services, that can take extra time out of a practitioner's day. That could potentially eliminate maybe a client service, so that could be a financial impact, because now we added extra, specific documentation. Excuse me, Fanny, before we move on, as I'm looking at the penalties, I know on number 5, page 12, versus failing to have the restroom available that is reasonably accessible. I know reasonably accessible was as a definition at some point, in our define, but it's no longer in the definitions. So I don't know if that's something that is, if we're putting this in here, we need to define what is reasonably accessible. Like, which I know is like within 3 minutes, like whatever. That, it used to be that, but I don't know, because it's no longer in definitions. Unless it might be, so. It was 3 minutes, it used travel time, it used to be a long time ago.
Yes, it's, I've been in a second for, I've never heard of that. Oh, but we can work that. Did you get that question? Your question, I think, is unrestricted. Like if it's. What is unrestricted? Yeah, it was. Jeez.
Question too. I know I'll regret it if I don't bring it up. This is Tina. But when I asked about the waxing services, we had such a hard time with the nail sign in and then keeping records all the time. And that's why we got rid of that section. The waxing services, some of the places I go to, they've got people lined up just for eyebrows. And it's such a quick turnaround for them. That's the reason why I brought up about the record keeping, because I personally don't want to go in and fill out my name and do all that, just like I didn't used to want to with nails. So I just wanted to bring that back up because I knew if I didn't, I was gonna regret not saying anything. Because it was a big problem for regulatory when we would go in to do inspections, having to get all the or get all the list of people that had services. And that was one of our biggest fines that we were giving all the time was for record keeping.
In the spot, I'll make caveat onto that. So in the regulatory piece, we are not seeing injuries. We didn't see it with nails. And so we were able to, we discussed with the board and that was moved. And currently it's the same with the waxing. We're not seeing the injuries, but if we do, we do get the complaint, we do investigate it, but there are very few and far between at this point in time.
And this is theater span, and from my understanding is that when we talk about brow, we were talking about brow, if we were to add brow lamination, it's a chemical. It wasn't necessarily about waxing, but it's about treating the brows because we're using a chemical to style the brows. So it was more for firming the lashes or what we call lifting, or we're laminating brow, but not necessarily for waxing. That was my understanding of it.
Okay, I just wanted to
So
make
you
sure.
would, for all aesthetic services, if there were complications or contraindications, so if you wax somebody and work with their side, you would notice that, but anything else would be a kind of, sometimes it's going to be included.
That was my understanding.
Okay, awesome.
I don't think you'd have that same problem. As you did with the difference. And I think reasonably, since that reasonably acceptable is tied directly to an employee, my guess is it's OSHA. And so I will do my research to see if OSHA defines that and maybe reference it or, and, you know, what, my guess is it's there and maybe we took it. Oh, it's, check it out, so don't know something, I don't know. But yeah, so my guess is it's there, so I'll also see that. But I think if you quote something, you should probably be able to reference what it means.
Yeah.
Then the other option is we can go over the rest of the rules. 120 pages if you want to, or my plan is that over the next until October, staff and I will take a deep dive doing exactly what you guys just did. And then bring that to the route and do the same. So that's been
Thank you, Sandy.
Sure. So with that said, what's next on the agenda? Okay, so you're getting the fiscal impact, so now. This is number 7. 7. Well, number 6, sorry. Here it is. So it's 6, little lane, there we go. Yeah, and it's together. And that was happening. Okay, so I know Harold went through the process, and I think he was on the board at that time, we see, so the nice thing about having done this whole communities and effective piece is you guys actually get the reference. So I gave you the list that you gave me prior, for the rulemaking you're doing now with the bias and no back. So, you can put some, more of these, and these are kind of the, general, the list here. You can kind of have the question, who will the rule affect? Who are, so if we're talking as reconciling and finding more documentation, potentially dealing with intake exams. There will probably be stuff for all fields of practice, so thinking on a broader scale. Would there be people of color affected, veterans affected, low income people affected? The thing is, this communities can be anything, right? It can be the corporations, an association, I mean, it can be anything. So, when you're thinking about it, think about, in a broad sense. These are kind of the catch-all ones, but I'm sure there's others. Like midwives have them on the site. The personal contacts. The other part is consider whether there are additional communities unified by common characteristics of social, historical characteristics, economical, political, employment or business, geographical, so you can kind of see this. And then I gave you that traditionally, prior to 293, it was usually for estheticians or the each field of practice. Two educators, small business owner, and public workers who have regular mayor, so generally, but, again, I can only put on the rack who applies. Please apply. Send them the application. So if you want to glean from this list, if you think that there's more lists, they come, write them down. And list those ones.
Trace, is this for, like, are we speaking specifically about House Bill 2970, racks for this? Are we speaking about racks in general moving forward?
That's a very good question. So this rack would be, I would think of it in terms of all the things we just went over, so reconciling the aesthetics piece and everything else. So retaking exams. Looking at the requirement of practicums, off the top of my head, different safety and infection control stuff, things that we're gonna talk about actually in community engagement. So for example, I would write for like each field of practice, one person. Some type of school education, things like that.
Student.
A student, absolutely. I mean, part of the rules is this could potentially be lots and lots of black numbers. We tried always keep it to 10, but you know, that's worked so far. Mostly because I don't have kids, but it could potentially be more if it's a self-reporting thing. So if you report that you're every one of them, I'm not checking. Do
We
we
want multiple communities
Absolutely.
being represented by one person.
correct? So you tell me that Shimon come on, you're getting the check process, so. In that regard, it has been easier to find these people because a lot of people are sending them. So that's just what it would be. So students. Do you think that the practice would include natural hair care?
Yeah, because the testing.
And they, you vote, would be relevant to it, move out. All the things they can. Should really condition. Do you think that since there's real specific stuff to aesthetics, you should have two estheticians? You could have some base esthetician, regular esthetician. You could do different racks. You could do one rack with each one for each field of practice. I hate saying it out loud.
And this is Tracy, if you have an advanced esthetician, you have both of those covered. Consider first.
Last time I did big rulemaking for this board, I did racks for each field of practice. I mean, the like barber there isn't a whole lot, so there was, and then I had in general for like all the disinfecting. We can move back to you. But generally give you. Okay, side note, in the schedule, I'll put it off.
I think two estheticians would be nice, because this is Beatrice Van speaking. I think one, because it can be standard. So having a standard esthetician who only does standard, it's good to hear their point of view versus it's certified advanced esthetician where they can do both, they can pick and choose. So it's good to have both separate represented. Yeah.
So are you saying two regular estheticians?
Yeah.
And one again?
One
You think that in medical providers or small business owners?
office moves. I do think healthcare provider is important because as these days it's COVID, students, in practice, like just like with test anxiety, there's so much anxiety now, and I feel that that's where those attempts come into place, not necessarily maybe not knowing that their information, not knowing the information, but there's a lot of anxiety going into testing. So I think having a healthcare provider, maybe a psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, some sort of that, to be able to get their point of view on mental health, of how to, like how that can affect the testing. Yeah.
Does this specifically have to be mental health? Can it be just a primary care physician, nurse practitioner, or one of each?
You could, on the second page of the list, this one. The board's prior recommendation is actually subject matter experts. So sometimes, I mean, we may not need that person for the hierarchy, but maybe it's important to bring in on the exams. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a rack number, but it could be a subject matter expert. But is there a healthcare professional that should be involved generally in all of them? Usually we always have somebody for that. I have to bring that option. Interesting.
I don't know, I still think somebody who is a specialist in some type of anxiety disorder, I think that is a big part of why people are passing these exams. And we did go from, scheduled testing to now back to open testing, so I think that also changes the aspect of things in the last year as well.
Say consumers. Especially in the safety, infection control realm and in the aesthetics realm. They might even does get approved, certainly in esthetician has to go to the advanced, then we have sets for that, also on petition yesterday. Our rural communities, all of them are at some point in the rural discussion. I guess let's do this. Are there any others? How's that?
That are like outside the compass.
Yeah. Like women. Or aesthetics and women might be. Not that I could probably get a woman in. Maybe in the women.
Hey, Sammy.
Yeah.
This is Harold. I think we've hit all the key topics. I mean, unless you really want to get granular.
No.
Okay, exactly. I think we did.
Every week.
It's just for time, and also I think we've encompassed everybody. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
because we could break it down by ethnic group, we can break it down, we can just go on and on and on and be here until the night.
Yeah.
But I think we have hit key groups that are concerned here. So, like,
Yes, I agree.
I make a motion.
Sure.
Okay, because I don't want us to get way deep
Yeah.
into the woods.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I
thank you,
just need to be.
thank you.
Well, what is the motion to approve? Unless I put in front of you.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead and say, do I make the motion? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, Tracy.
We're waiting for the second.
Sorry, Tracy.
You're good. So good.
It's Chelsea, I second that. I second that. Okay. To approve the list.
Okay, I'll call Tracy Promo, Ken? Harold Potts,
Yay.
Chelsea Westcott,
Yay.
Jamie Farren,
Yay.
Beatrice Fink.
Yay.
One more thing. That you don't need to vote on, I don't. Vote necessary, but is there any thing that you want me to put in as a regional equity statement? And this will come up again. Because depending will depend on what rules change, how they're changed. That's, we will approve. You don't have to pay me now, I will ask for it again. And you know, yesterday, said there was different ethnicities in this and that. Probably wrap that into the part of the relationship to these something.
This is Tracy. When we originally talked about the different communities, you and I actually spoke very briefly about having either an email to send out to specific people or a tip, like a template or something.
Absolutely.
So we'd love to have access to that so that I can give it to people.
Absolutely. So there's a standard letter and then, and I get more specific like this. I'll go to the web, I'll go to all licensees. I can also send to all board members, more specific, and directly from me. There'll be a press release. I will do everything I can do.
Thank you.
We're starting to like send it out to like all OHA staff, and so we're trying to use different types of origins when I'm targeting right now. So. Documents. But yes, you will get it. I'm gonna talk with Bill now. Oh, it's time to eat. And I'm gonna talk for a while. This is Dan.
So do we adjourn for lunch? 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
Oh, the working lunch.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.